like to call the meeting to order. Please read the opening statement.
Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of the holding of this regular meeting of the Howell Township Council was provided for in the following manner: by the posting of a copy of said notice upon the bulletin board in the Township Municipal Building on March 18th, 2021, by emailing a copy of said notice to the Asbury Park Press for publication on March 20th, 2021, by the filing of a copy of said form of notice in the Township Clerk's office on March 18th, 2021. The public will be allowed to attend and will be allowed to participate pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. The public is reminded that civility and decorum will be maintained during the meeting. Any contracts awarded at this meeting or between now and the next meeting will be required to comply with the requirements of Public Law 1975, Chapter 127, also known as New Jersey Administrative Code 17:27. I will call for attendance. Councilman Bonovich,
Present.
Councilwoman O'Donnell,
Here.
Councilwoman Richmond,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Russo.
Here.
Thank you. And Mayor Berger.
Present.
Thank you.
I would like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and also to memorialize and remember all the people who have lost their lives during COVID and our first responders and all of our veterans. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Acceptance of
Thank
the
you.
minutes. I'd like to call for motion of the February 23rd, 2021 regular executive, including public release minutes. May I have a motion?
I'll make the motion for the February 23rd, 2021, I'm fast forwarding, regular and executive session, including public release.
And a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Councilman Bonovich,
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Richmond.
I abstain.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Russo
Yes.
and Mayor Berger.
Yes.
I'd like to call for motion for the March 9th, 2021 regular and executive minutes, including the public release. May I have a motion?
So moved, Mayor. So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. Councilman Bonovich,
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Richmond,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo,
Yes.
Mayor Berger.
Yes.
Okay, next we have guest speakers, beginning with Director Arnoon.
Well, I'm sorry. I wanted to just
Sorry.
change it up a little bit. I wanted to just do our they're guests of ours. So I wanted to go forward with the reports of the officials.
Mayor, if I may, I'm aware that Director Commissioner Mr. Arnone is on a tight schedule, and he asked that he could present first because he's got another meeting to be at. So would we have to take a vote, or how do you want to do that, Mr. Clark?
I think typically as a courtesy, we have the guests go first.
Thank you.
Can we do Commissioner Unknown and then go back to us? Because he's on a tight schedule, I know that, so.
Thank you for that, Councilman. Yes, I'm okay with that.
Let's move forward. Commissioner Arnone, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So I'm here tonight and I'm going to be making my rounds around all the county. First of all, I want to thank you for complimenting me and giving me the ability to move your agenda there. And I know you have a busy schedule and a busy night. Unfortunately, I do have another board meeting I do have to go on, but with 53 towns, I'm trying to get a lot of these in. And I want to clear a lot of misinformation that potentially could be portrayed out there or even dispersed out there by, you know, maybe even board members like there on the process of the pandemic. So if you indulge, I'll give you probably 10, 15 minute, I guess, understanding of what occurred here in Monmouth County and where we were comparable to our counterparts in other counties. So on March 9th of 2020, we received our first case of COVID-19 in Red Bank, Little Silver, but actually in Red Bank Regional High School at that time. And it alerted everybody to, wow, this is real here. And when that came about, I'll be totally honest and frank with you, and I'm sure that everybody sitting in their seat there, elected officials and professionals, we had no idea what was ahead of us and how to handle it, because I don't think any of us went to COVID-19 school there. But with that being said, Monmouth County, with myself and Deputy Director Sue Kiley and the rest of the commissioners, we figured we'd take it head on, and we did. And we started holding normal press conferences weekly that were held by the Channel 12 News and actually on some major outlets too. But with that being said, it was a very positive approach that people all over the county were giving us, telling they were very excited about and thankful. I should say excited, but more thankful. And on normal weekly calls with our 53 municipalities to go through the process there. But we had to put a plan together. And with that plan, first was the safety of our residents and our employees. And then when the shutdown came, we acted accordingly. And then we had to dive in to initiatives that were put out. And I hope you'll be proud putting political sides to the back burner right now. There was a lot of disagreements with decisions that were made. Parks being closed. Monmouth County was on the forefront of the parks being open. Beaches being closed. The way the beaches are open are mainly because Monmouth County sitting at that table with a lot of our local mayors and making the decision that we best saw fit to move forward. The closure of the businesses, which we'll talk to soon about. But then we had to look at our municipalities and the need of our municipalities. And coming from a small town, not the size of Howell, realizing that you didn't budget for a lot of these items. And all of a sudden, out of the nowhere, $108 million comes into our coffers there. And with that being said, we sat down and thought, how are we going to handle this money? Where are we going to put this money and where is it going to go? The state of New Jersey did not want the 9 counties, not just Monmouth County, the 9 counties to have this disbursement directly to them because it went over a population of over $500,000. All 9 of us, both party affiliation counties, worked and fought very hard to make sure it did come to us. And the reason for that is because I wanted that $108 million to stay in Monmouth County, which I can say very happily it did. And we roughly have about $6 million left out of that money. And we will hold that money with the unknown of what will occur when the next phase of vaccines comes out or just any added cost that will occur there. So what we did is first I met with the mayors of every town and we did a reimbursement program. I don't know the exact numbers that Howell was reimbursed, but I hopefully feel it was sufficient to what their needs were. We received numerous phone calls with thanks for that, and it came in 3 disbursements. Then we looked at the businesses. Now you saw a lot of negativity come out of the way we processed our business model to disperse the money. Well, I'll stand here today, and I hope you guys are proud of us standing by what we thought was right, because we are sitting here now with the only county that dispersed $48 million in $10,000 increments to businesses through Monmouth County, with a lot of pressure from our state leaders on both sides, okay, and our governor to let EDA administer our funds. Without naming names, we'll have counties that surround us that aren't even close in disbursements because they let the EDA disperse their money. My job was to get the money where it had to be, in the pockets of the businesses that were struggling. Then we looked at some other areas. We knew that there was a need for testing, And we went out to the areas that are probably the more difficult areas in the urban areas for people to go out to, say, the western part of the county or the Bay Shore or those areas. So what we did was we put testing sites on a daily basis, 150 tests a day in Neptune, Asbury, Long Branch, and Freehold Borough. It worked pretty good. We did some special ones with the emergency services just for our emergency service workers. We took all that money out of CARES Act money to administer all those needs there. And there comes a lot to it because there becomes the policing of it with the help of our sheriff, Sean Golden, and always there, to assist us in whatever needs we needed there. So that was another initiative that we did. Then we had to look at the people that were really struggling through our arts and our nonprofits. And our nonprofits were truly struggling because their base, as we all know, revenue base is through events and going out there and reaching out for dollars. Well, that came to an end. So to keep the lights on, they needed help. And we came through, whether it was account basing, whether it was lunch break. But I will tell you this, and you've heard about certain situations about, well, why didn't we help this organization? Let me be clear about one in particular. And I know there was a situation that came up just recently about a food bank, and we all know it locally here in Monmouth County. We never received an application for that. And so we moved forward with all going through a process, which I hope that the residents of Monmouth County feel was important. So we moved into the vaccine part of the period. Vaccines were very unknown. And I don't know if anybody on this call was on the call when I was very, very strong on my position that distribution should be by population, because it wasn't happening that way at first. And we were receiving about 500 to 600 shots a week, where we were having neighboring counties receive close to 3,000 to 5,000. That wasn't going to stand well with myself and the rest of my commissioners. So we are on a leveling playing field, but we can't do it by ourselves. So we have the great organizations here in Monmouth County that are also getting their disbursements. And I might say clearly, the disbursements that we get, Monmouth County gets 2,500 shots a week, and we put 2,500 shots out a week, every week. The only time that we received more than that was the week that we did not receive shots, where because of the weather that affected the outside of this area. And the following week we received 5,000, and we got all 5,000 out between Brookdale and our agriculture building. Brookdale, we are not a medical facility, and I'm a big proponent and a fan. Government does things very well, and government does things not so well. And the things that we don't do well, we should get out of and put it to the right people. So we had a great part. I received a phone call from Monmouth Medical, RJ Barnabas, and they said, "Is there anything we can do?" I did not hesitate and said, "There absolutely is. Can you be our partner?" And we partnered with them, and they man, with assistance of us, but mostly them, they man our facility at Brookdale, and then our health department does the ag building, because we distribute less vaccines. So when we came through with this, we just received an allocation 2 weeks ago of 800 Johnson & Johnson vaccines, with the stipulation that we were not allowed to administer them. They had to go out into the community. So what we did was we figured that there was a huge need of people not coming back to the second shots in certain areas. Howell not being that area, obviously, and the western part of the county not really being that area, but there was some of the urban towns that were. And so what we did is, who better to partner with but some of our clergy. And we partnered with clergies in Red Bank, Asbury, and Neptune. We partnered with, and they distributed those vaccines for us. We haven't received another allocation. We're hearing that that's going to occur. When that does occur, and plus, I'm sorry, I apologize. We also partnered with some senior facilities to make sure that we get it out into the senior population too. And what my ultimate goal is when that expands out, that my next move is out to the western part of the county with those Johnson & Johnson vaccines. But I want to be clear because you hear different information about what's been going on. I don't normally do this, okay? But I'm on the call with 20 other counties. And I will tell you, and it's the help of my municipalities too. Okay, our municipalities, I should say. But our county has done everything possible to assist every organization we possibly can. Are we perfect? No, but it's not from a lack of trying. I'm not one to sit there and put blame. I'm one, as everybody knows, to roll the sleeves up and get it done and, try my best to make Monmouth County what it is. And I'm not a person that's going to throw out faults on different people. That day will come. People would say all the time, you're sitting on these channels and you're not hitting the people that are maybe at somewhat of fault for this. It's not the time to do that. The time is to, as a leader, the time is to get through the pandemic, get through it successfully, move forward, hope we never get it again, but never at any time look to pin blame on anybody else, because none of us are perfect in this. But at the end of the day, Monmouth County did things pretty well. And we're about to embark, as I'm sure you guys know, to a large sum of money. We all have our difference of opinions on that. But the one thing I'll promise you is that money will stay in Monmouth County. If we get it, it's not going to the state. It's not going to any other entity. It's staying here in Monmouth County where it belongs, to the right entities. And I'll put a plan along with my 53 municipalities to look to see what their needs are, to make sure their communities are taken care of the best they should be. And, I guess the biggest point that I think myself and the rest of the commissioners have to go out there. I've had a few people, when I said I've called, they were like, Tom, you don't even have to call us. We know what you did. We know what the county did. We were on those calls, and, we're with you. And it's never been a political agenda from them. And I think that's why we're so successful. And, I just wanted to clear any misinformation of how and decision that we and how we handled it. Listen, I will tell you, I sat in a seat for 8 years behind a mayor's chair, and I sat 7 years behind a council chair. In my wildest dreams, did I know what the whole county's climate was, from our urban to our western to our bayshore to our Two Rivers area. I had no idea. And but there's certain needs in certain areas that warrant help from us. And I think everybody believes in that. I truly do. And that's the way I'm going to govern, why I'm here, because we're all going to work together, and hopefully we're going to help the ones that need a little bit more help, and be there to be, somewhat of a crutch to be their assistance. So I did feel it was important to come here and just give a little overview of what the county has gone through this period of time. And I'm willing to take any questions or suggestions from any of you. And I'm going to make this a regular throughout the whole county, through probably 53 towns if I possibly can. So that's about it.
Well, I want to say thank you, Commissioner, so much for coming forward. I know that I, as well as Howell, look forward to working with you and the county to making sure that our town is vaccinated with all, with our seniors and whomever else qualifies. So thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Commissioner, I like to echo that as well. Thank you for not being political. This is not an issue to be political. But the one thing that struck out in this conversation today was, you say the vaccine wasn't distributed by population. So, Middletown and Howell, why couldn't we take that approach with the counties? The township, why wouldn't Howell receive more or Middletown receive more? Because we just had an event and with an OEM, and we put out in one day for our seniors, we had 200 vaccines, and I know you're aware of this. You did vaccine events every day, 200, 100. But we had 1,750 seniors in one day. And that's because Howell has a larger population. So is there a way that we could, I
So,
don't know.
That's
It's a big
that's a
ask.
great question. And and I'm retracting on on a statement that I made, but it's somewhat common sense when we think about it. Here is that we look at where these mega centers were put. If you go back and we're big on data, okay, that's the big word that's been used for the last year. We're big on data, but if you look at the data and the statistics of the seniors, whether it's Ocean County and Monmouth County, okay, it's probably the highest in the state of New Jersey. And we don't have a
Gotcha.
mega site, and we're receiving 2,500 shots a week. When I look at this decision, I have to say this is a flawed decision. It's definitely a flawed decision because, 25 needles could only go in 25 arms, 2,500 arms. And so, when we look at that and say, how could some of these counties with population, and when I talked about distribution by population, it should be also distribution by population by category. So if we're looking at a population with a huge youth or 40 and under, okay, that should come into play when we're talking about the population that is more senior driven. And that wasn't taken into account there, and it should be taken into account.
I agree.
Director, thank you for coming and speaking. We appreciate it. And I think we're all on the same page as far as getting everyone, many people as possible vaccinated. How much do you think the state will be giving the county weekly? Do you have a roundabout?
Yeah, well, we do. That's a great question, Pat. So we basically get 2,500, but let me be clear here. It's not that I'm here to take credit, because I truly am not, because we are one team. My board they give me that ability. I guess I've been on there the longest, and they figure I'll just let him go and do it because he's not going to shut up anyway. But so just do it. But we were receiving 800 until I came to the table very, very, very stern with it made no sense. We have 630,000 people in this county. And you are comparing us to people that, neighboring counties that don't have the population us and giving us less. And then the excuse was, well, I don't think you could distribute it. That's not your decision to make. Give me the opportunity of the vaccines and let me prove that I can, in which we have. And I will tell you that I will be out there very loud and vocally on increasing that, because for two reasons. We are running into extreme close times to our tourism season. As you know, I don't have to tell you, each and every one of you up there, that is the driven economic engine of the success of Monmouth County. Not only Monmouth County, but all our businesses. I'm sitting in my office in Red Bank overlooking the Navasink right now, down that street, down Front Street right now. I'm looking at tons of lights on with businesses right now. I am almost guaranteed, if we do not push to make sure that we get these, not at 50%, not at 70%, 100%, because people can make their own decision at that period of time because of the amount of vaccines that we have and the Keep Safe program that we have. All right, let the people make those decisions, because these lights will be off. And I know that for a fact because I walk to these businesses. I also want to emphasize that your town in particular took extreme benefit to our takeout in Monmouth bags. I know that seems like a very small part here, but we probably distributed well over 50,000 takeout in Monmouth bags. If I tell you, and the only reason I say this because I get the emails in, and I saw so many from Howell that took advantage of it, which was great. Whether they were calling for 500, 1,000, 1,200, which was really special. And I'm sure you're familiar with them. But these were the little things that other counties weren't doing and that we need to do as a group. And, and I know I'm sure you came across money from the stimulus package too. And, I think right now that's going to have to be our goal as a county in whole, is to drive our economic climate up. Because I say this over and over again, we're looking at people's businesses. But the owners of those businesses, that's not the only thing that's driven here. Okay, they also have a life that they have to pay for to keep running, and it's just a double difficult time.
Commissioner, to go back to the vaccines, how are we going to be able to bring more vaccines into Howell?
Yeah, if I get more vaccines, there's 100, absolutely, absolutely. So my goal is to take all the. It doesn't look like they're going to increase our 2,500. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that. I believe they will increase that 2,500. But at that period of time, the need is going to slow down a lot. So they'll go into the communities there. But when we receive the Johnson & Johnson, my goal, from what I hear, and, obviously I'm no doctor there, but I'm hearing by the end of March, the middle of April, there's going to be an extreme supply of Johnson & Johnson. That's all going to go to my communities. It's not going to stay with the county distributing. It's going to go all into the communities. Now, I think I've addressed the urban areas, which I think needed it because, quite frankly, it's the most heavily populated area from what I was talking about with the economic side of the businesses. And, we can't hide. It would be very difficult to get them back for their second shot, for people back in these urban areas to come back. It was hard enough to get them vaccinated at first. It was very difficult to get them to believe in the vaccination, but twice was difficult. So we put it in that community. My next goal is the western part of the county and the Bayshore area of the county is going to be my next two initiatives to distribute the Johnson & Johnson vaccines. Plus, let me also answer, anytime you get a senior building, please feel free to call my office to see if Sue Mollone in my health department will, in my aging department will partner with you. We are now taking our scat buses.
So Commissioner, that would be fabulous. When the request was sent out through OEM, there was 1,700 seniors that requested a vaccine. There were only 200 that were able to receive that. I would really love to work with her to bring in, 500, 600, 700 more vaccines into the town. Our seniors are really needing it.
What I need is you as mayor, council you need to tell the people in Trenton, your county does it right. Give us the opportunity to continue to do it right and to go out there and say, listen, our county will distribute it. Where are these vaccinations going? Okay, listen, I'll be honest, I disagree with the criteria whatsoever. Everybody knows half the people that are going to get vaccinations are saying they smoke or they have some sort of ailment. I'm sure some of them do, and I'm sure some smoke. But I've been very vocal with, I don't believe that I should, because I smoke, take it from somebody that's that's 70 years old, that's 75 years old, that's 79 years old. And believe me when I tell you, I'm getting those calls.
We all get those calls,
mind-boggling
unfortunately.
when I walk into a Brookdale Community College and I see young people, 30, 40 years old, getting the vaccinations. And we all know the HIPAA rules, okay? There's not much we could do. They say they have it, and well, they have it. And I'm getting a call from a crying woman that's 79 years old saying, or a vet, which really drives me crazy. When somebody that sacrificed for us, and we're not giving them the first opportunity.
I absolutely agree with you, sir, so much, which is why, again, I'm going to ask again, if there's any way that we could bring another event into the town for our seniors or our veterans, I would so very much appreciate it. And I would love to work with you on it. So, and I know that you had said that you had another meeting, so I'm not quite sure. Are we? Sure,
yeah, I'm it's just about that time to go, 7:30 now. So, but I want to thank each and every one of you. And know that if you have anything that you feel is not being done, come to me. I have an open door policy, and yes, everybody knows that through the county. Reach out to me. I kind of have I rather speak to people that are not extremely pleased with something than hear about it. And so that's important to me. And you know, that's the only way you correct things if there is a problem.
Mr.
Which-
Director,
Thank you, Director. I totally
Good.
appreciate that.
Mr. Director, Councilman Richmond took my question. But I just want to thank you. We were never left in the dark from the county. You know, you don't have to look far to find you everywhere. And I just want to thank you for all your hard work
Thank
up
you.
there.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I want to thank all of you for indulging. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Commissioner.
Thank you.
It's been our
Thank
pleasure.
you. Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr.
Thank you.
Gee, why we're switching in and out of the room, is there a way we can partner with maybe Centra State? Have you reached out to any of the local hospitals to see if we can partner with say, or another hospital or another medical center?
I would have to check with OEM. They have been heading that up, so I'll see who he's contacted and
Mhm. And Mayor, I mean, I know you say it, you know, and I'm not looking, it's not a dig. I'm just saying, since you have some connections to the governor, maybe if we collectively send him a letter on behalf of the governing body, you know, telling him that we have 1,700, you know, people who requested and we were only able to do 200. Can you help us out a little bit? Like, I don't think that would hurt.
Councilwoman, you can send a letter, absolutely, if you like. There's options all over. There's Center State, there's ComEd, there's many
Meridian,
other
Georgia.
organizations that the town, I'm sorry, Tommy, that the town was working with. And if you would like to send a letter, be my guest and send a letter. You know, there are other options for the township, but unfortunately, they're not being used appropriately. Deputy Mayor.
Oh, no, I just mentioned Barnabas and Meridian as well, correct? Are all also big providers that we could possibly
Yes,
work
they
with?
are.
Okay.
Every hospital. I was at Jersey Shore last week and they've done over 26,000, which seems like a lot of vaccinations. But when you look at the community that Jersey Shore serves in their immediate area, 26,000 is not a lot.
Is nothing. That's what it is. It's really a small, you believe it's a big number, but it's really
But it's
not.
not.
I mean,
So that says something about the amount of vaccinations that we receive in Monmouth County. So.
Well, no, I think
we
we're
need to put the
receiving
pressure
a lot
on.
in Monmouth County. I mean, I will say there are different organizations that are receiving vaccines throughout Monmouth County. And it's just the ability of the council to move forward and bring them into the town.
Bring them in.
Bring them in. I think we're all on board with that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so they just took away my Cheez-Its because I was chewing on video and I'm starving. So they took away my Cheez-Its. So now I can't eat my Cheez-Its. So I would like to move forward with the report of officials. So I would like to, if we may, Brian, Mr. Gahegan, can we have an update on the roads, please? The more emails I get, the more angst I get.
well, that is actually part of my report. DPW is working on potholes currently. They started on March 11th with their pothole truck. And over the course of 3 days, they were able to patch 226 large potholes. We have just approved a contract recently for our patch program with L&L Paving, so they will be getting started. Part of it is held up because a lot of the plants are not generating blacktop until the weather breaks, so they're starting to open up now.
Okay.
And so that's what part of the big holdup is. Additionally, you know, we have the water company that they have a large amount of paving to be done in town as well. So same thing applies. They're still waiting on the plants to open as well.
Okay.
They don't produce.
Do you know about when? Like maybe April?
When the weather breaks.
When the plants are opening, I think they're gearing up now. So how soon we're getting work done, you know, DPW is getting small amounts currently.
Right.
I don't know
Okay.
when they're start mass producing.
All right, thank you. I wanted to mention the seedling giveaway. It is April 24th, 2021. And I also wanted to mention the spring farmers market on March 28th. That's from 10 to 3. And that's in, the Howell Township building, which, it's a very big event, I've been told. So I'm really, very happy about that. Township has purchased 35 acres on 4 plains with partnership with Monmouth Conservation Foundation and Green Acres. I know that Councilman Bonovich worked on that as well as some of other councils. So I want to say thank you for everybody on council that worked on that. The other thing that occurred last week was Altice Optimum. The call was 6 hours long. I sat on that call and worked at the same time. I want to say, Councilman Richmond, you spoke very eloquently, and thank you so much for expressing how we all felt. I did ask the town actually, to submit their own complaints to BPU, because I feel that their voice is so much stronger than ours, because there are, there's thousands of them. There's only 5 of us. So I felt that it was really important for the town people to also submit as many things as possible. So that being said, I think that I would like to move forward with Deputy Mayor Russo.
Point of
If you
order,
have
I'm
anything-
sorry. Wasn't Manager Geegan still giving his report? We haven't heard from him.
No, I asked a question, he answered it.
Oh, well, I'll look forward to your report soon, Mr. Geegan.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. So the Business Recovery Task Force met, I believe it was 2 weeks ago. We discussed Restaurant Week. That is currently being worked out. The property tax program that we discussed, I think it was 2 council meetings ago. The survey is out, it's live. If you are a local business or if you're a manager of a business, please go to our township website and fill it out if you can. I'll post it on my Facebook page as well, and I encourage our council members, if you can just put it on your social media and get it out
Absolutely.
there. The more responses, the better.
Deputy Mayor, how long has that link been out, and how many responses have you got thus far?
I haven't checked how many responses we did get, but I know it's been live for about a week and a half. I think a week and a half.
Thank you.
There was an idea of a job fair. I think it's a great idea. It's currently in the works. We're working out the kinks. There are obviously folks out there now who need work right now. I was surprised to learn that there are a fair amount of opportunities or a fair amount of businesses who are looking for employees in town. But that's being worked out right now, and at the next meeting we should have some more information about that. We're continuing to work with the Alliance very well. Big shout out to Krista Riddle, who's been doing a great job reaching out to our local business owners and managers with regard to substance abuse. It's a very hard time for everybody, and that work does continue. I spoke to Manager Geegan and Attorney Joe Clark about if there's any money that the township can give to our local businesses. That's something that I think we should definitely look into. Our local businesses need money. I mean, that's like when you speak to people in town and local businesses, they appreciate the support and the creative ideas, but a lot of them just need money to survive. I instructed or asked rather if Manager Geegan and Joe Clark can look into possibilities or any money that we do get from the state or the Fed, if it's possible for us as a governing body to disperse those funds. That's something we should definitely look into it quickly. And Mr. Geegan, you said you would get back to me on that next week, correct?
Well, we're actually awaiting guidance from the federal government as to what the money can be used for from the American Rescue Plan. When they're going to release that, I'm not sure, but obviously they're going to be dictating how the money can and cannot be.
Okay, I appreciate that. Something small, our Easter egg hunt. I don't know the date, but if you go to the township website, you can find it. This is something that I totally didn't steal from Barstool Sports or Dave Portnoy. A pizza tour. I was thinking about going around trying all of our Howell Township pizzas. And I'm actually talking to Attorney Joe Clark about if that's even a possibility. He assures me it is. I'm gonna shoot you the plans over, the updated plans rather, Mr. Clark, Mr. Geegan. I encourage. That's just something that I think the governing body, if you want to join, I'd love to have all of you, anybody out there who wants to join. I will have more news on that this week. Pizza
Deputy
tour.
Mayor,
Yes.
how many pizzerias does the town have?
That's a great question, and that's actually why I didn't officially launch it tonight. We're actually speaking to, I think the Fire Bureau has that information. I counted like 20 something. There are restaurants that do serve pizza, which that does count. That counts. So we got to look into that. But this is in the works. It's a fun idea, a way to get people out. You know, the weather's getting nicer. It's a feel good thing, get people out and supporting our local businesses. They already do, but it's another reason to get out there and support our local businesses. But I'll have more information on that. I'm very excited about this. More information about that in this week. I'll have a flyer, should be out. I just want to hash out all the legal issues and anything with the township, hash it all out and get it out there as quick as possible.
I love this idea. Pizza is like, has all of my favorite food groups.
Yeah.
So
and I did not steal it from Barstool Sports. This is totally my idea.
I'm not quite sure about that, but okay.
Just saying. Two more things. Our Eagle Scout, Brenda Mueller, if you go to the GoFundMe page, that's a great opportunity to help out a Eagle Scout who has a great idea to move the War Memorial to Soldier Memorial Park. It's more exposure, and I think it's a great idea. And he also wants to make improvements as well. One more thing, our Howell wrestlers had their first match. I think it was on the 16th. They won. Tonight was senior night, and they did face Marlboro. I believe they were winning last time I checked. If you get an opportunity to check them out, it's all done, unfortunately, all YouTube. It's all YouTube live, but if you get an opportunity, check out our rest and all of our high school sports, support them. And I know they you always appreciate a crowd. Unfortunately, there's no crowd, but I'm sure the parents appreciate you dialing in. So that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Bonovich.
Can you hear me? I'm off mute. All right. So thank you. You robbed my United Town Musical. You know, that was a big thing for me. So since 2015, that was a great job by all of us. It's been on my radar since 2015. Some of you have been on council prior to that. Some of us only since 2018, but that's a great job. We preserved 30 acres. It was going to be on 140 units on the same corner. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. We're going to do the mind thing. Anyway, so, you know, we saved 140 units being put right next to 72 units. So the traffic and quality of life, that was a good job by us. And we should continue looking for open space. I know we're looking at properties around town. I know Monmouth County Conservation chipped in with that. We have some green space, so let's keep it up. So kudos to all of us. The other thing I really want to talk about tonight is our resolution dealing with the marijuana and minors. You know, I'm proud that we have that resolution on tonight, all of us, and we all agree. It's not a Republican. It's not a Democratic issue. To me, it's an issue of parents and our officers. As a parent of three, I'm glad about this. Senate Bill number 3554 established penalties of only warnings for illegal use by minors. Warnings, which the parents will never find out. So I'm happy to announce, I know the commissioner was involved with this, Senator DePaul was involved with this. The legislator is correcting this parental notification piece of the marijuana bill this Thursday. Governor Murphy said he will sign it. This should have never happened. As a parent, we have every responsibility to know what's going on with our children. So I'm glad the legislature and the governor are correcting this. And I'm proud of this council for putting that resolution on. And once again, proud of all of us. That was a job together. We worked together. So hopefully on Thursday, it will pass legislature and the governor will sign that.
Amen, Councilman.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman O'Donnell.
Yes, apparently maybe Manager Deegan and Mr. Clark will talk about the CARES money and the relief money. And I realize that we don't have the guidelines, but it's out there that there's a substantial amount of money to come in 2 phases. So we'll be watching that very carefully. In terms about the property that was preserved, the Town Beautiful property, very nicely done. We appreciate the Monmouth County Conservation Foundation for partnering with us every time that it's possible. So I will tell you that the Farmland Preservation Task Force, we continue to look for properties that we can preserve, and we are actively sending letters and speaking with people. Something else upcoming, of course, the farmers market this weekend, but although early on May 2nd, Patterson Greenhouse Farm is having their family day, which is always huge in Howell Township. And as a result, they're also having a cancer fundraiser, which has, as some of you may know, has stricken their household. So I urge people to go and to help with this endeavor that the family's putting out. So it's a difficult time, again, for them, because now, obviously, they lost Mr. Patterson not long ago, their mother prior. So I think that this is a great year for Howell Township to support the family that has continuously supported our town for decades. So in terms of the roads, the last time I'd given the original report going back several meetings ago, and the report for 2021, I still have the written stuff about that report. I was asked not to give it all, but that information is available from land use anytime anyone would like to know. So yes, they do have a plan for 2021. And as always, it's the money that will dictate. So our budget will dictate how much happens. And I think that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Councilwoman Richmond. Pam, we can't hear you.
Sorry. Okay. Thank you, Mayor. I have a few things. I'd like to read a statement that I shared briefly. This really comes into play with Jennifer Beam, who will be speaking later on behalf of us and the Planning and the Zoning Board. So to continue to maintain the right balance and proper planning for our community, as the Class 3 member of the Planning Board, I will be asking the governing body to immediately review and consider removing warehouses as a permitted use for special economic development, which is SED zones. Across Howell. This would impact proposals for any new warehouses and not those already in operation. I had asked for an immediate moratorium by the governing body, but was advised by the township manager that the governing body does not have the authority to implement such an action. As such, the removal of warehouses as such a permitted use in SED zone is necessary and warranted. I think we all can agree on that. I have come to the conclusion based on continuing feedback from township residents. It is also my view that we have sufficient warehouses across this community. While we need pro-business approach in Howell, this zoning amendment is needed due to the increased demand we are seeing in Howell Township. We must all do our part to protect our community and manage the rate of growth smartly. Perhaps in the future, later governing bodies may reevaluate the needs for warehouses in the SED zone and act accordingly. It is my intention to have an ordinance draft immediately and read for introduction at our next council meeting if the governing body agrees, and it's something that obviously Jen Beam will be discussing going forward with her presentation. I hope I have the full support of the governing body. I also want to piggyback off what the mayor was saying about the BPU. Yes, we were all there. I spoke. I just want to make sure we thank Andy Bear. He's going in, he's intervening. His motion was granted that he will obviously represent Howell, and hopefully we can get our residents back to where they need to be, back online virtually for all of us. And on some good notes, I want to remind everyone that Sunday, March 21st, was Down Syndrome Day, and April is Autism Awareness Month. And as an educator of special needs students, it's very important that we bring awareness so more people understand and accept these very special individuals. Don't want to forget that. They're super important. I also want to give some kudos to our Community Development Department. I was reading our monthly report, and I'm not sure if anybody picked up on this, but out of 1,040 properties that works out to, we have a compliance rate of 96.9% with our landlord registration. And that is, from this report, the best compliance rate we have ever had. Not only did the compliance rate improve, but the total amount of time and effort, thanks to our online application processes, has decreased significantly. So kudos to our code enforcement staff. Eileen Cuso, Brian Dunwoody, John Aguilar, you guys really have helped make that programs very, very successful. Also, I want to remind everybody about brush collection. It starts April 5th through May 9th, bulk pickup. We can start calling for appointments on the 29th. And in case anybody did not see, I think it was Barbara Dixell who was talking about the mosquitoes and the spraying of the mosquitoes. We have something on our Facebook page and our website regarding the control division. They will be offering memorandums, I think, if I'm correct, Manager Geegan, regarding notification when they will be spraying. And last and not least is I want to thank all the emergency services who went out and fought that fire 2 Sundays ago. Boy, oh boy, was that amazing. And I hope everybody remains safe and there wasn't much damage, but our emergency services deserve a lot of respect. Thank you.
Councilwoman, I want to just thank you for bringing up the warehousing and your leadership on that. I think that's a good idea if it can be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I'm sorry, Councilman Bruce, are you done? Okay, I did not mean to omit my thanks to Councilwoman Richmond for actually being the voice of Howell residents and the council at the BPU hearing. It was long, lengthy, somewhat informative at times, but it was really heartbreaking to hear so many people so unhappy with the service. But more importantly, I think that it's important for the residents to know that, you know, we hear them, we're trying, and the usual, I think on Tri-Town paper has a long article about the hearing, but it's interesting that the last page, they state exactly what Altice had said, and it's the usual rhetoric of, you know, we try to make our customers happy, we want to do better, but I think that it's really important when you read something like that, that you understand it seems to be a lot more of the same. So hopefully, by you standing out there, Councilwoman, you represented Howell in a positive manner, and hopefully they'll hear us loud and clear. So thank you again.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you all for, I do that on behalf of us, the governing body, and the township, the residents. And I have set up a meeting with the manager and Verizon. We're working on hopefully getting some FiOS in town, and we've been putting the pressure on them as well, so we can give our residents some options. So Manager Geegan, thank you for helping me facilitate those meetings, and the people that I know over there are really trying to help Howell have some options, because I think that's where Altice gets us, is they know we're kind of stuck, and maybe if we could find a reason to bring Verizon in, or they can afford to come in here, we could put a little pressure on Altice and give our residents better services.
Yeah, I learned the most from that call as well. I learned so much. You think it's just a Howell issue. I mean, there was calls from Lakewood to Montvale to Saddlebrook to Piercedale, Amboy. So you know what? The BPU hopefully puts the pressure on, and competition comes in, and we want T-Mobile, we want Verizon, we want everybody. So shame on them. It's a big problem.
Bring them in.
And to that point too, I think the manager had mentioned, and I think a couple of residents, that with Optimum Altice, that with our franchise contract, that right now we're in the middle of negotiations. So I think we have a little bit of an upper hand, how we can negotiate some sort of contract that works in our favor and not in their favor. And we can kind of hold that over their head, I hope. And I know the manager has been going back and forth and really, making them put their money where their mouth is, so to speak.
Yeah.
Thank you. Manager Geegan?
Sorry, Mayor. Okay, I had a few things. A few of the governing body members have already touched on it, but just to reiterate, with our DPW bulk pickup starts in Zone A on April 12th, with reservations being taken March 29th. Additionally, brush pickup will start in Zone F on April 5th. To make a quick announcement, the entire council has expressed having a public meeting with certain department heads to discuss their 2021 budget requests. That meeting is scheduled for Monday, March 29th at 3 p.m. It will be conducted via Zoom, and the public announcement will be out shortly. And again, as requested, we will be having DPW, the Police Department, and Community Development presenting their budgets at that time. And for those that can't be on to see at 3 p.m., it will be videoed and posted to our website. And then finally, the topic of the American Rescue Plan. Howell is slated to get just over $5.1 million. As I mentioned, we're waiting for direction from the federal government and the state as to A, when we'll be receiving that, and B, how those funds will be able to be used by the town.
I would like to say, you know, I know that Congressman Pallone had a huge deal to do with that. So I would like to thank him personally for the assistance that he, you know, all the fighting that he did for all the towns and all the townships. So thanks to him for us receiving so much.
Okay, that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Clark. Mr. Clark?
For just a couple quick updates. We met with NJ Transit at your request, Mayor, and you know the news is not good about commuter rail service to Howell. I can tell you that they have no current plans to, you know, initiate any sort of line. The MOM line, the Monmouth Ocean Middlesex line, sort of died about 10 years ago, and there aren't any current plans to revive it. They've been focusing on the Route 9 bus line. They're creating some new infrastructure in Manhattan that will hopefully help them to improve that service as well. I think there's a new terminal going in. As I said in my email to everybody, their deadlines are fairly astronomical. I mean, I think their projected deadline for having that new bus terminal built extends out to 2040. So they're hoping to get it done quicker, but I mean, you know, they provide service to a lot of people. So their timelines are in decades, not, you know, weeks or months like we would hope. So I think that that's probably not going to happen anytime soon, although they did tell us to feel free to reach out whenever we wanted. With regard to Altice, Councilwoman Richmond was correct. You know, she spoke at the meeting, and then Andy Bear spoke as well and submitted a letter recently after our motion to intervene was granted, looking for various relief, including appointing an independent expert to review Altice's practices in the state and a variety of other things. All of the complaints that we've gathered as a township were also submitted as part of his letter. You know, the last names and addresses of the complainants were redacted. In terms of the provision of services, the installation of fiber optic and things like that, you know, to help make it a little bit easier, I've been working with Matt Howard and you know, Councilwoman Richmond and some of our other people on planning and zoning to kind of look at our, what we require our applicants to do, and to see if, as part of that applicant package, they should be providing notice to the utilities. They currently do, but we want to make that a little more robust so that these fiber optic service providers at least are aware of and have the opportunity to come when the ground is open and to install conduit. Even if they don't put fiber optic in at that time, they'll get some of the infrastructure installed, which will make it easier for them to go later. So
Can I ask you a question on that?
In that sense.
Can I ask a question on that, Joe? So if we do that, does the cost go to the town people, or like what happens? Because I remember a couple of years ago we looked into excuse me, we looked into it. It was a very expensive proposition. To bring FiOS into the house because they needed all new you know, fiber optics in the homes.
No,
so
I'm talking about a different thing. I'm talking about putting infrastructure. This isn't about connecting houses.
Infrastructure. I know that.
And that's, you know, having met with them, their plans extend out for years as well. This is about helping them prepare to install it at some point, and by making it as easy as possible. So say, just for the sake of argument, a developer is going to put in, you know, a neighborhood. they give notice to Verizon, they give notice to Altice, they give notice to T-Mobile, whomever else. Then they can come along if they want, and they can install whatever infrastructure they may need, whether it's going to be utilized now or in the future.
But it's not on to the person that's buying the
have a
home.
chance to hook into Howell and get us connected a little bit quicker.
So, but it won't reflect any extra costs to the people of Howell, is my point.
No, because they're not going to
Right.
be hooked up at that point in time.
Do you have anything else?
No, that's all.
Thank you, sir. At this point, we also have additional speakers. So we have Jennifer Beam from Planning and Zoning.
Mayor, I'll move her into the room right now.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I was asked at a recent planning board meeting regarding whether or not, in my professional opinion, a circulation element of the town's master plan should be undertaken. There were some concerns identified at that meeting that perhaps undertaking a circulation element would jeopardize the town's development pattern and maybe open up opportunities for additional development that don't exist today. So I was asked to come here and basically discuss the pros and cons, or really there are really no cons in my opinion, of preparing a circulation element. It's important to note that the town hasn't done a circulation element since 1994. So we're talking almost 30 years ago. Things in town have clearly changed over the course of the past 3 decades, and evaluating your road network, your pedestrian network, your sidewalk network, any kind of bicycle network, transit. I heard Mr. Clark just talk about looking into, additional transit lines on Route 9. Things have changed in the past 30 years. So I would recommend that the governing body look into perhaps allowing or authorizing the expenditure of funds to enable the planning board to undertake this initiative. What it does is you look at the existing road network, you look at what has transpired, work would be done with key stakeholders, a lot of internal individuals within the township, your engineer, your community development department, the county, GIS databases, to see what has changed over the past 30 years, and perhaps a relook at the roadway classifications is something that should be undertaken. I will say the roads haven't been reclassified since 1994. So that's something to keep in mind. In addition, as I sit as the professional for both boards, we see development applications come in all the time. Almost every single development application that comes in asks for a waiver for sidewalk. And the justification is, well, there's no sidewalk there now. And so in many instances, the board acts and says, you have to start somewhere. In order to have a comprehensive sidewalk network, you have to put the pieces together. And this is a way through the development applications that it's not done on the taxpayer's dime. The developer who's redeveloping little r, the sites, put in the sidewalk network and help try to create a contiguous loop or what have you. We would look at accident data, trouble intersections, congested intersections, what has changed in the land use pattern over the course of the past 30 years that perhaps are lending themselves to those types of issues. And as you know, and I heard earlier, the discussion about warehousing. Warehousing has become the hot land use item lately, not just in Howell, but in a number of communities. And as such, impacts associated with traffic from that type of land use really needs to be evaluated. So what I would say is that by re-looking at your circulation, your road network, your bike network, your sidewalk network, creating a foundation, which would then lend itself to an evaluation of your existing zoning, which is going to control land use. So the road classification doesn't control land use, the zoning controls the land use. So once you have the foundation and the facts associated with the underlying infrastructure and evaluation of your existing zoning, and perhaps certain areas maybe need to be tweaked a little bit because what we thought would develop in these areas has not developed in these areas. Areas where we're seeing applications for warehouses, for lack of a better land, perhaps when it was zoned was not really envisioning the type of warehousing that we're seeing now. And those types of things could be made based on current information. And it's also important to note that when applications come before both boards, planning and zoning, you know, based upon this road network classification system that's 30 years old, a right-of-way is required. And so if an application is being put forth before both the planning and the zoning board, the right-of-way is, you know, it's an opportunity for the town to receive dedication of roadway to make those right-of-way widths what they should be based upon your classification system. If these roads are not classified correctly, you're not going to be able to acquire, you're not going to be able to get the requisite right-of-way, and it may put you in the future, I don't know this for a fact, but it may put you at some point in the future in a position where you'd have to acquire right-of-way to make the road network work properly. So, you know, I think that there are a lot of benefits to taking a look at this. And I would also state that it was evaluated in 1980. It was evaluated then again in 1994. And then starting in 2014, the 2014 to 2017, and your most recent 2019 Master Plan Reexamination Report has had a recommendation to revisit this circulation element. And so it's something that I would request that the council consider, because as we move forward, you know, into the future, I think it's time to take a new look at things, and it would provide you with a proactive opportunity to appropriately zone for how you want Howell to look 10, 15, 20 years moving forward. The end.
Thank you. Is there any questions on council, from council?
Mayor, yes.
Councilwoman.
So first, thank you, Jen, for coming in and speaking on behalf of the town and obviously planning board and zoning board. I made a little bit of a statement, so I want to make sure I get it right, because I want to get the facts and I don't want this to be a political issue. I want everybody to be informed, because I think it's extremely important forward thinking for our township, especially since it hasn't been done in 30 years. So I'm not prepared to make a decision tonight. I just want to hear the facts, and we have to obviously consider it. A couple of things that I think we need to know in order to make a good educated decision is how much is expected, an estimate on what a circulation element plan may cost the township.
So, you know, without having done, you know, I wanted to come and give kind of an overview and see if you guys have a flavor for undertaking this initiative. But I would say it ranges between $25,000 and $30,000 to do a comprehensive evaluation.
Okay, so that's like $1,000 for every year we haven't done it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Also, it'll take about, you think it'll take about a year or so with COVID, and obviously it's going to be hard to get a read on traffic, right? Because schools and businesses, people working from home. So we want to make sure we get a good comprehensive idea of the traffic and what we're looking for without obviously exposing new building and helping us.
I would say it should take anywhere from 6 months to a year. And a lot of that is going to depend on how much like public involvement, community outreach, you know, you as an entity want to be incorporated into the process. I will say that, you know, I would recommend taking a look at the road network, you know, in the summer months, but then I also would recommend, you know, doing a similar evaluation after September. You know, right now, I would say, even though schools are back open, but I'm understanding now they're kind of closed for a couple weeks, but you know, it's my hope, trust me, with 2 teenagers at home, it's my hope that by September, the kids will be back in school. And so you'll get a better picture of busing and different kinds of impacts associated with school being hopefully back in full session, which I'm hoping will happen by September.
And again, I can't stress enough how being now on the planning board and listening to these applications and talking to Matt Howard and all the professionals, that I really strongly believe that this this element plan will help us, help our residents, give them what they're looking for and what they need. And without that data, without that baseline, I mean, 30 years baseline, I mean, I don't even think Route 9 had much. So we need a baseline. We need the data to justify our planning board and our zoning board and our building in the town. And without that, I don't even know how we move forward.
I mean, I look at this, and I will acknowledge that this is not an element that towns do on an annual basis. They don't even do it on an every 5-year basis. But I will say, 30 years, things have changed significantly, not just in Howell, but in New Jersey in general. And at some point it's time to take another look. But I consider this like if you're building a house, this would be the foundation above which you would evaluate your zoning, evaluate perhaps like a complete streets program or other types of pedestrian bicycle type initiatives that, I'm not saying are going to be appropriate on every roadway. I drive through the town on a regular basis, and there are definitely some roads that, don't have the width right now that can accommodate bikes, but there are a lot of rural roads that would be appropriate. Connecting to the reservoir, which would be, it's a great resource that you have in town, whether it be sidewalk network, bike network, etc. So it's something that will help you look at what do you have in place, and then you can overlay your existing zone plan and say, you know what, maybe SED in this location is not appropriate anymore. It was way back when, and now it maybe is not. Or whatnot. So it's definitely something to consider. I would recommend it.
So I know Councilman Bonovich, you had a couple of concerns, and I see you smiling. So I forget you're really not on mute. So I know you have.
It's safe to say, Ms. Bean, good to see you. You opened up with saying since 1994, this hasn't been done, correct?
Correct.
It's safe to say that, there's a lot more traffic, and I think Pamela, Councilman Richmond alluded to Route 9 and all that. Is it safe to say if we did the circulation plan, it's 30 years old? I'm concerned with roads like Kent Road, Arnold Boulevard, Randolph Road, Wyckoff Mills Road. These roads will be classified to a higher level. It's obvious 30 years later, correct?
Well, I will say that currently Kent Road, Arnold, Ford Road, Fort Plains Road, they're already classified as collectors. So I don't know that they would have the volumes to elevate them to arterial, but there's certainly the potential for some roadways in town to receive a higher level of classification. But you do have a pretty hardy list of arterial and collector roads currently, and looking at them from 1994, it's pretty comprehensive, but there are definitely roads, like, for example, I think that Matt and I were talking the other day about the increased traffic on West Farms Road. That's it's currently classified as a collector now, so it's not like it's considered a rural road, but perhaps a 66-foot right-of-way for West Farms Road may not be appropriate today as it was 30 years ago. So it's not just simply recategorizing the roads, but it may be evaluating the appropriateness of the right-of-way. So it may stay in the same category, but just get a recommendation for, a wider right-of-way. Because, like, for example, right now, West Farms Road, there's like no shoulder. So when the mailman is delivering mail, it's difficult to get around.
So just say West Farms, we're using that road for an example. Just say it was reclassified to a higher road. I don't even know what the levels are, highway versus collector, sub-collector. But as you get up there are different uses. So such as like all of a sudden you could have a school, right? So if you reclassify to a higher level, there are some other uses that become available to development, correct?
Well, West Farms Road's on a collector now. So uses like, say, a school would be permitted on the collector currently, but the right-of-way width in the master plan is only 66 feet, whereas maybe an 80-foot right-of-way would be more appropriate. So, I have to say, like, when I went through the list, I was pretty surprised how comprehensive it was for being so old. But, you do have some applications before the boards that have the potential to generate a significant amount of traffic volume. And I want to make sure that you guys are protected in terms of acquiring the right of way that you should get in that instance. And also looking at the zoning, because, it's no secret that last Thursday night, a subdivision was approved on Vanderveer Road. And, maybe the zoning along that area needs to be relooked at, because, what was envisioned 20 years ago is not the type of land uses that are going in that area now. And, maybe it's not the right fit, but this gives us the facts to support making the change. And it's not all just going up and allowing for more. It also provides you the information to say, maybe we need to pull the zoning back in certain circumstances and focus the development in a more of an appropriate location based upon current conditions, not conditions that are, 3 decades old.
But
So-
Jen,
so-
I'm sorry, Councilman, I'm so sorry. Go
So
ahead.
a new CERC plan is not going to stop development, especially if these roads are classified to a higher level. I mean,
Well,
that's not.
Councilman, can you repeat your question? I'm sorry, I can't hear.
I think a new CERC plan is not going to limit development, stop development. It's not going to help us with that. If these roads are classified as higher levels, we have other uses coming in. Am I correct?
well, no, that's not the fact. That's not the case. The bottom line is that your zoning dictates development. So this will provide you the tools that you would need to maybe more appropriately zone areas to less commercial and industrial that, years ago were considered, but things have changed over time and maybe it's not appropriate now, but now we would have the data to support kind of a down zoning in those areas. And then perhaps along 33, because 30 years ago, there was no sewer in that area. So things have changed, so the circulation element alone and the classification of roadways has really no bearing on the development. It's your zoning. So this will provide you the foundation from which zoning changes can be adequately recommended, which is your purview. If you can do nothing, you can do, obviously, a master plan element is a planning board document that just provides recommendations. You as the governing body have the authority to decide whether or not to implement said recommendations. But it's been such a long time that I feel like you don't have the current data to substantiate, making sweeping changes that may or may not be necessary.
Jen, just to be clear, so road designations does not make the zoning, correct? The zoning is what drives everything, right? I mean,
Correct.
it's giving us justification to make some changes in our zoning. I just want to be clear on that because I think there's some confusion that I think Councilman Bonovich has a little backwards. It's not the roads, it's the zoning. And I just want to be clear.
No, but if a sub-collector goes to a collector, there's additional uses like a school.
No, a sub-collector is a collector, so a school could go there now.
So I'm just saying, the higher level, there's more usage, correct? You can't,
Well, based upon your current zoning, you're in control of your zoning. So if changes need to be made, this can provide you the information to say, maybe schools are not allowed in every zone on a collector. Maybe we want to focus schools on, arterial roads or, something at a higher classification like, Route 9, Route 33. But, you are in control of your zoning. So if there's issues associated with it, if you have the information, you can make an informed decision on how you want your zoning to look moving forward.
All right, so if these roads are classified to a higher level, like you said, 60 foot to 80 foot, that puts another burden on us as a council and residents. Like, what are we going to do? Do we have to widen these roads or not? Correct?
No, it's a recommended right-of-way width. So what happens if a development application comes into the planning or zoning board right now? Let's just use West Farms because we've been using that as an example. Right now, West Farms has a recommended right-of-way width of 66 feet. So a development that has frontage on West Farms Road would be required to dedicate however much area from the center line of that road to their property line to make 33 feet, their half width. If it's 80 feet, we would require additional dedication, but there's no obligation for you to go out and buy right-of-way. But if the roads aren't classified properly and the right-of-way widths are too narrow, you're missing an opportunity to get the right width dedicated. And potentially in the future, if major roadway improvements are needed, and I don't foresee that happening immediately under any circumstances, but if that were to happen, by not being able to acquire, like, we can't require an applicant to come in on West Farms Road and give us a 40-foot half width because the master plan right now has a 66-foot right-of-way. So if you needed to widen it out, you then would be responsible later to acquire the additional right-of-way, where if it was classified properly, you could get that as a dedication when the applications come forward. Saves you a lot of money.
So my education here is that the CERC plan does nothing. The zoning dictates. So what are we
Well,
doing?
no, it
for?
it doesn't do nothing. It provides you the information to help facilitate informed decisions on your zone plan.
So Jen, a new
Okay.
plan,
I'm listening. I'm listening. That's what I do. I ask questions.
yes, me too, Councilman. So a new plan would actually protect the town and help us justify preventing development. We can also have roads in the opposite of Councilman Bonavich's concern about the upsizing or the upgrading. It could also work in the other, in the favor, to help us justify zoning.
Like I said, I think, it's been quite a while. It will provide you up-to-date information from which a lot of decisions on your part as council members and the mayor would have to make in terms of sidewalk networks, bike networks, roadway widths. So I think that, it's not going to solve the zoning problem by any stretch, but what it does is it gives you the foundation from which to make a decision moving forward. And right now, the data that you're making decisions based on is 3 decades old.
I got you. I'd love to sit down with you as well. I'd like to.
Absolutely, anytime, just let me know.
Ms. Beam,
Yes, sir.
can we contact you? There's a lot of
Of course.
information, a lot to digest. First of all, good seeing you, and thank you for coming, by the way. It's been
No
a while.
problem, anytime. Yes, you absolutely can contact me. That's not a problem.
Excellent.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
For several years, the idea that a circulation plan would open Howell Township up to unnecessary building has been verbalized. So can you tell me if that's true?
Well, I think that's kind of what we've been talking about. So the plain, simple answer is no. Your zoning dictates your development. So if there are certain elements of your zoning that are linked to roadway classifications, I think it's important that you see what the current circumstance is so that you can act appropriately to maybe make whatever necessary modifications you feel are appropriate to move forward. I mean, zoning in theory is a forward-thinking thing, which is why, I know Howell does a great job in looking at things more frequently than 10 years, but that's kind of why the MLUL requires like a land use element be at least re-examined once every 10 years, because it's supposed to be looking forward.
I understand. So, and I will say that since November, I've been asking for a Grow Howell plan from this council, and myself included, that we need to get ahead, to look ahead and to formulate things. So I think that possibly it would be in our best interest if we thought about asking you for a proposal, a formal proposal, and then the council can make an informed decision based on that.
That's not a problem. I can put that together for your next meeting, if that was the pleasure of the council.
Could I ask for a straw poll vote on that, Mayor?
Mayor, would we be so inclined to obviously take all this information when we're done here, we have any questions, we obviously can email Ms. Beam on our own, and then by maybe the next meeting, we could decide if the direction we want to go in. I guess Ms. Beam will have a better figure of what it could cost and how long it would take, and then we can be better educated and make a good decision.
So what I agree, but what I would request with that is that the questions and the answers go out to the full council so that we know what the conversation is, so that we could also make an informed decision with that information.
So that being said, Madam Mayor, I would maybe request, first of all, any of you guys can contact me at any time. That's not an issue. But if you want me to do kind of a comprehensive response, maybe through your administrator, like the questions and concerns, I don't care if you call me, email me independently, but maybe I can put together kind of a comprehensive response and
Yes.
submit it back to you through administration. So
Yes.
all the questions, instead of, and obviously if they're repetitive, I'll consolidate them into one response, but that way you'll have one comprehensive response that all of you are basing your decision on the same information.
That would be perfect. Thank you.
No problem.
You're being speed dial, be careful. Speed dial. Jen, you might be on speed dial, be careful.
That's fine. You know what? That's why I'm here, honestly.
Manager Keegan, I do have a question regarding the $30,000. Would we be able to find that in our budget?
I want that, yeah, the 5.1 million rescue plan, let's go.
I wouldn't count on that.
Oh, as I said, we don't know how we can spend that yet, but as we have not even introduced a budget yet, we can certainly plan for that if we have, some pretty good numbers from Jen, a good estimate.
I have plans.
So we could make arrangements to see you at our next council meeting, hopefully, Ms. Beam.
Yes.
Great.
Which
Thank
is the, what is the date, Brian? I know you told me it's the 13th. 13th. Okay, I'll put it down. Yeah, I'll be here.
you. Thank you so much.
So at the next
Thank
meeting,
you.
you'll be giving us the answers to the consolidated questions.
Yes, well, I mean, hopefully, no, I will get the I will get the responses back to Brian in advance of the meeting, so you can have them prior to the meeting. I mean, obviously, if someone calls me at 6 o'clock the night of the meeting, it will not be included in the response, but by and large, the responses to all the questions will be back in advance. I mean, when do you put your packets out for the meeting? I mean, I
So
can try to
it
shoot
should
for that.
probably be the Friday before the meeting.
Yeah, that's fine.
Actually, the Thursday before the meeting.
I'm sorry, Susan.
That's okay. The packets.
No
will-
problem, Susan. I will get it back to you and Brian in advance of the meeting so that you can include it in the packet.
Thank you.
Manager Geegan, if there's are there any residents or any public comments who they have some questions, should they just contact the governing body, ask the mayor, contact you, and then you can feed those questions into Mrs. Beam, and this way you can keep them all in one little place and make sure she gets them all together if the public is interested or has some questions we didn't think of, maybe?
It should probably go to the clerk, right?
That's what I'm asking, just for clarification.
That's fine. For me
We
and
need to
Alice.
use Matt questions. Matt's sitting all like a little bored over it.
Matt has me on speed dial already.
Yeah.
Multiple
That's
times a
okay.
week we speak.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you guys for having me. And if you have any questions, like I said, please don't hesitate to get a hold of me.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
I want to say to Deputy Mayor, Howell won 4-0. I just wanted to give you that update. If I may, can we please break for 3 minutes? I need a 3-minute break. If council agrees.
I'll
Make a motion for recess.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Susan?
Okay, we have a motion to recess.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. We shall reconvene in about 3 minutes.
Thank you.
And educate the community on the importance of rain gardens to capture, clean, and recharge stormwater runoff. Educate on how rain gardens utilize native plants and could create essential habitats for wildlife, insects, and pollinators. Demonstrate a decrease in stormwater runoff and pollutants filtering into the Manasquan watershed that serves the Howell community, and increase the construction of home rain gardens in the Howell community. So the grant is, this is an eligible activity, surface or groundwater protection education. And our goal is to construct a rain garden and use it as an educational tool for the community to learn how to make their own rain gardens moving forward. We did reach out to Rutgers Water Resources Department, and they have reviewed our grant application. So we are, and they've also given us an estimate to provide services to both help construct the rain garden and to provide
Nice.
educational services to the community while we're building the rain
Nice.
garden. So we would have community members come in and volunteer as part of building the rain garden.
Lisa, where, do you have a location?
Yes, Justin Yost and I went and we looked at a location at either Soldier Memorial. If you're familiar with there's a parking lot on the right-hand side, a gravel parking lot. They get a lot of flooding coming off of the road. There's a pole there and then it kind of like runs down. So they get a lot of flooding coming off the road in that one area into the parking lot area. So we really like that location because there's traffic going by. People would be able to see the rain garden.
Right.
It would get a lot of exposure. And we'd have some nice signage there telling everybody what the rain garden is. People that go to the park could see it. The second location that we looked at was Oak Glen Park because the one parking lot on the opposite side of the road does get a lot of flooding. In actually both corners. If you're familiar with it, there's kind of a swampy area behind that. So that was the second location. We're asking for, the grant is up to $10,000. So our estimate came in at about $8,000 and Rutgers would provide $2,000 worth of in-kind services to us.
Is there any
So,
matching, is there anything matching from the township?
no.
No.
No, it's a direct payout, $10,000. So Shade Tree would like to move ahead with the grant application. We're in the process of just finishing it up. And based on if we get the grant, that would be great. We'd love to get the community out and show them how to build a rain garden. If we get a really good response, I believe that Shade Tree would be open to funding a second rain garden in the community and doing another
Nice.
class for the community.
That's wonderful. I love it.
So I think it's a great project, just, considering all the stormwater, management rules that are coming out now. And I don't know if everybody's like my yard, but I get a lot of flooding. So I'll probably build my own rain garden after we get done. But we just think it would be a nice project for the community. That park gets a lot of traffic. It would be great for the people going there to see a nice little rain garden. So
I agree. So at this point, I'm going to ask both our town manager and lawyer, what are the next steps for council and for Shade?
Mayor, if the council is agreeable to their proposal, we'll have a resolution on for our next meeting. Although
Okay.
we may have to make it retroactively because I believe the deadline for the grant is coming soon.
Okay.
it is.
In the meantime,
It's the 31st.
we could write a letter. Yeah, what we've done in the past is we'll do the resolution after the fact and make it retroactive. In
Okay.
the meantime, we can write, I can write a letter saying that this is something that the council supports. However, our next meeting is after the deadline, so the
Okay.
resolution would be for that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Let's do it, guys.
Let's do it.
That'd be great.
Mr.
I
Um,
say so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
And
so much, Ms. Dowd.
I also just wanted to let everyone know, seedling giveaway is the 24th.
24.
7:30 to 12:30 at Public Works. And Shade Tree will also be doing a seedling giveaway to the third graders at the Howell schools. So we'll be providing 567 seedlings to the third graders, along with a tree for each school and a shrub for the winner of the Arbor Day contest that the schools are having.
Awesome. Awesome.
And
Thank you so much.
If I might,
You're welcome.
I said, Lisa, and you're very fortunate in that you have actual people in our community that have done rain gardens, are very knowledgeable. So this project's going to be stunning.
Yeah, I think it'll be a great project for the community and it'll be a nice little perk for the park. So, and I also just
Thank
wanted
you.
to add in, I believe that we emailed the PSE&G grant information to everyone.
Mhm.
So if anybody has any questions, just reach out to me. We'd be happy to answer them. Again, I think it's another great opportunity for us to take advantage of some monies that are out there to do some projects for the community.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
So,
Thank
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. So there are no proclamations. At this point, it is hearing of the citizens for town business and agenda resolutions only.
Okay, I would like to read off the public comments from March 9th, since they were overlooked at that point. I'll read them tonight. John Hughes, a resident, sent email at the last council meeting. Mr. Clark indicated he was very busy and he receives many ethics complaints that he has to review. Can Mr. Clark inform the public of how many ethic complaints he's received in the past 4 years and of how many of those he has resolved?
I can give you rough numbers. Over the past, well, I've been here 3 years and 4 months. So in the past 3 years and 4 months, probably a dozen. Several of them have been relatively minor, so they get resolved without incident. Again, I'm not a hearing officer. I'm not the one who decides it. I review them, I research them, I decide what to do with them. So that's typically what I have been doing with all of them. We're going to discuss some of them in executive session tonight. We discussed one last week, but typically they tend to be private. And so I'll tell you the numbers, but that's all I can tell you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have 2 emails from a couple residents in reference to Councilman Richmond, Christina Radvansky and Alan Colleen. Both.
I think you need to read it individually.
Okay, from Ms. Radvansky, indicates that Councilwoman went on to the radio, identified herself as a councilwoman from Howell, saying the public safety measures should be ignored. Do you think it's appropriate to publicly identify yourself that way when you're not speaking on behalf of the council and speak in an area in which you have no training, no education? And she appreciates a response. And Mr. Adam Killeen, hopefully I'm saying that correctly, asked Councilwoman, how did she decide that the pandemic is over, so masks and other public safety measures should be ignored? Also, another resident, Anthony J. Mazza, to the mayor and council, is thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. He is writing to extend his sincere thanks to Councilwoman Richmond. He heard Councilwoman Richmond on the radio last week, and she was simply outstanding. She spoke for so many of us who want to comply with the law and be safe, but are fed up with the constant changes and flip-flops by public officials. Governor Murphy botched so much of the pandemic response, but he gets a giant pass by the media. Councilwoman Richmond spoke of common sense and called out the state and federal officials who seemingly want us all to do as they say while they act differently. Other states across the nation, bigger than us, have begun to return to normal and have lower infection and lower death rates than New Jersey. Meanwhile, New Jersey businesses and families are hurting while our governor gets caught eating inside, or while we watched elected officials across the country defy their own rules. Our Councilwoman Richmond called out the state leaders to step up their game, get things back to normal, and get us moving again. I applaud her decency, honesty, and courage to get things back to normal and get us moving again. And for doing the right thing. While she said she was for law and order and following the rules, her comments were point on about getting New Jersey moving again. New Jersey should follow the lead of places like Florida and others. Thank you, Councilwoman Richmond, for speaking for all of us who don't have such a voice. You are a role model for us all. Please know Howell loves and respects you. Keep up the great work. I do have a comment from today. I have 2 comments from today. One is from Suzanne Brennan, resident of Farmingdale. Good evening. Thank you so much for adding Resolution 21-118 to tonight's agenda for the governing body's consideration. The companion bills, Senate Bill 2951 and Assembly Bill 4771 that tonight's resolution supports are, in my opinion, right in line with the effort to eliminate the stigma associated with substance abuse disorder and could even encourage more people to seek help that have a lasting positive impact on their lives. Drug court is a strict program that includes close monitoring, frequent court appearances. Drug court is a strict program that includes close monitoring, frequent court appearances, comprehensive inpatient and or outpatient drug treatment programs with all the goal of helping participants achieve sustainable recovery. According to a report dated January 21, 2021, that can be found on the New Jersey Court's website, and she lists the website name, a total of 26,973 participants enrolled in the drug court program since April 1st, 2002. In just over 18 years, only 6,798 of those participants successfully graduated from all phases of the program. 1,785 of those graduates have since successfully had their criminal records expunged. The proposed legislation would allow drug court graduates to have nonviolent offenses expunged, thus allowing them a wider array of opportunities as they look forward to their future. As participants working their way through the program, I imagine it could be helpful to feel supported by the community, knowing that they would have a chance at very different life than if they didn't enroll. Those who have done the hard work, who have turned their lives around, who have proven their commitment to leading healthy and successful lives deserve a second chance. With this legislation, we'll get it to them. I thank you again for your time and consideration. With appreciation, Suzanne Brennan. We have another comment from Mr. Anthony Mazza. Dear Mayor and Council, I'd like to publicly thank Councilmember Richmond for taking the time to personally testify at the recent BPU hearing about Optimum and their terrible service and pricing. Councilwoman Richmond, it is wonderful you took the time to do this and fight for the people of Howell. I also watch your many videos online and love how you are constantly fighting for the people. Please keep up the great work, and please know the great silent majority supports you. Sincerely, Anthony Mazza. And that's all I have as far as emailed public comments. You're on
Okay,
mute,
Mayor,
Mayor.
move-
I'm sorry. Thank you. Is there anybody else that is out there that needs or wants to speak?
Yes, Mayor, I have a number of people with their hands raised currently. I'll move
Okay.
in. Tina Smilek will be the first coming in.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
First things first, Councilman, Deputy Mayor Russo, Easter hunt is March 26th through the 29th. You're looking for the dates. March 26th through the 29th was the Easter egg hunt. You were looking for the dates? Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't know I was on mute. Thank you.
It's okay. Nothing on the agenda tonight. I just, you know what, talking about the circulation plan, if zoning controls the circulation plan, shouldn't you view all the zoning ordinances connected to this circulation plan before you do the circulation plan to make sure that you're covered before you change anything? And how many parts of our master plan are there? And out of those master plans, do we know how many are, do we know how many have been reviewed? Do you have a list of everything that's been reviewed and done? I mean, council, do you know where we are with our master plan? I mean, does we're saying we're going to do the circulation plan. Is that the most important right now? Is there another one that's 30 years old? I mean, how do we judge which ones we do when? Nobody knows. I can't.
I'm sorry. I do not have that answer. Matt Howard, you've been working with in the department for a while, and manager, can you answer this question?
The elements of our master plan are all on our website, so those are all viewable. Ultimately, when things get looked at is ultimately when the governing body decides to do so. The circulation element's definitely gotten attention lately because of the age. And that's, I think, one of the main focuses as to why we're proposing to look at it now. But we've done consistent looks at the land use element. We've done reexaminations and updates pretty regularly to that. So it's ultimately as the governing body and as professionals see fit that things need to be updated.
So this is still this, there's nothing else that's 30 years old or 20 years old that hasn't been reviewed on the master plan.
I'm not necessarily saying that. I mean, I haven't looked at every element recently and evaluated how old it is. But this is one of the oldest ones that has gotten attention lately and needed a discussion.
But maybe there's other ones that need discussion also. I mean, I'm just thinking, shouldn't the council have a full list of our master plans the last time they were reviewed and, you know, get some input on which ones are most important? I can understand why you think the circulation plan is, but I would think you should look at something as a whole if you want to put and prioritize what's important. Of course, if our zoning is the one, if our zoning controls what our roads, not our roads control zoning, then we should look at zoning before we look at a road circulation plan. It just makes sense to me that the opposite way you're putting the cart before the horse here. So I just want you to look and see that maybe can you go through these zoning plans to protect the town first, that all connected to the circulation plan, and then do the circulation plan, or do them at the same time or something. So, because once you change something and somebody comes in and puts it, before you change zoning, you're grandfathered in and we've lost out. So that's all I'm saying.
Just to be clear, the zoning controls the uses.
Yes.
The uses are what drives traffic and intensity. So the idea that we want to look at the circulation element and see where upgrades are needed, where down zoning may be needed, is the decisions that go into the uses and the zoning. So you're kind of saying, let's do it the other way and let's have the zoning done before the circulation element. Well, that's ultimately what every zoning change has done in the last decade or so. What right now, to do some of the things that may need to be done, we need to have a planning basis to do that. And the idea is one of the key components to that is the circulation element and having a rationale as to why we want to downzone an area. Because we may all know as being residents what needs to be done. We see it every day. But without planning principles to back up our zoning decisions, they don't usually stand up and stay valid for long.
I just want you to prepare that our zoning and this is done at the same time. Please don't pass a circulation plan without knowing the zoning changes that need to be made to coincide with that circulation plan to make sure we're protected. So I think you should look at zoning first and then do the circulation plan, and then you'll know what zones have to be changed and maybe pass them all at one time instead of individually passing them at different times, which could ultimately affect the outcome that you're looking to preserve here. We're looking to preserve the town. Let's do zoning and this development plan together. Make sure both cover each other before it opens up a can of worms. Councilwoman O'Donnell stated that we can get the road 2021 road plan from land use, correct? How do we get that? Does that have to be an Oprah? Does that have to be?
No, the road plan for 2021, which was formulated in the efforts that this could be done with the financial backing that would be given, came from, I got it from Mr. Howard, and that was part of the report that I wasn't permitted to finish saying. So yes, that is available. Whether or
And
not
how do I get that? Do I write Mr. Howard or do I put it through an Oprah?
Just
Excuse me,
put in
Mr.
an Oprah request, and that way we'll have a record of it.
Okay, because last time I put in an Oprah when Councilwoman Richmond told me to get the manager's report, you gave me a $1,500 fee for that. So, you know, I'm not going to get a fee, right? $1,500 for a manager's report because we won't do a state of a town. And now you're telling me to do another Oprah for this. I just want to make sure this will not be the same.
Would you like me to run through the reason why your Oprah request was going to cost $1,500?
Sure, you can run through it because it
of
wasn't my
clarity?
idea to Oprah it. I just wanted a state of the town. Councilwoman Richmond told me that I should Oprah it. It came from council.
Sure, so
I don't really
why
want
don't we
to know.
talk about it then, because it's
Okay.
clear you didn't understand what I was doing. When I answered your Oprah request. You asked for all of the manager's monthly reports. You asked for 2 of them.
2 of them.
My time to review them is 8 hours each. My billable rate's $77 an hour. There's a lot of redactions that need to be made to it. I'm the only one capable of doing it. Then I need to prepare a Vaughn index, which satisfies our requirements under Oprah. Another 2 hours. So
I'm
you
not,
add it all up, it's $1,500.
but I'm not questioning, I'm not
I
questioning.
know you
your
don't like it,
efforts.
and I know you feel you're being denied access,
No,
but that's how much it's gonna cost. And it's not fair to the other taxpayers to give you something for free and to take their time and money.
okay,
That's
but
why
if
we're
you
allowed to
listen to
charge a
me,
special service charge.
I did not say that I was going against what you would charge or your time or how much it was. I was saying that Councilwoman Richmond said that if we wanted to have the information, we were to Oprah these documents.
And you
wanna make-
did, and I told you that there's a cost attached to it.
Yes, so I'm letting Councilwoman Richmond know that you can, yes, hi, nothing bad against you. You didn't know. We cannot access the records that you told us that we could access.
So
So
you can access them, it's just gonna cost a special service charge.
$1,500. So that's kind of little.
That seems excessive, actually. $1,500 seems excessive.
Well, she's always
I'm
welcome
just
to go
saying.
and challenge it at the GRC, and I'm happy to defend it, Mayor, because I think that they'll find it reasonable.
Joe, I'm not saying anything against you. I'm just saying $1,500 to
saying
me
it's a little
seems
ridiculous.
unreasonable. That's all.
There's
A
50,000
resident asked,
other people in this town who have to pay for stuff if we give it out for free.
I'm sorry,
I'm
excuse,
not saying that. I agree, Joe.
we're running down to the last minute.
okay, no, I'm done. I just think that if you're going to tell a resident to do something, can you please give us information in which it's not going to cost us $1,500 in order to answer our questions? All I wanted was a state of a town, address. That's all we wanted. So, and I don't blame Councilwoman Richmond at all because she didn't have any idea. Brian went right, the manager went right along with her and thought it was fine. I'm sure he didn't have any idea either, but it just came down to it that when it was requested and you thought we could get this information, we cannot get this information. So
No, you
unless
can
we
get
pay
it.
1,500.
You can get it.
Okay.
I think reasonable versus unreasonable is always what's in front of you. That's all.
I just want to know, maybe we could say this before, when a resident's asking a question, maybe we could just if we're going to give answers to a resident, let's give answers that aren't going to cost them
Well, that's what we
$1,500.
do. I mean, you're asking now for the roads, so I'll take a look at it. You can put in your Oprah
I'm sorry,
request. I'll do an
fine.
analysis of it at the time. I'll see if anything needs to be redacted. You'll be apprised of any special service charge at that time, and you can decide ahead of time whether to pay it or not, just like with every Oprah.
That's fine. I
fair to
just
every
don't
other
think council
townsperson.
should be,
It's fine.
council, mayor, anybody should be giving any resident information that's going to cost them money to get. That's all I'm saying. I just want you to appreciate that fact. Please, you know what? I don't have
We do it on a
$1,500 to
case by
spend on
case
this.
basis as the requests come in.
All I'm saying is it would be nice if we had a state of the town address or if residents could get this information somehow.
That's
All
a
I'm
different
saying-
issue, and we cover it every year. It's in our ordinances, and there's no set form for it.
All right. Good luck, everybody.
Yeah. Susan, is there anybody else? Or Brian?
Brian,
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, Mayor. Next I have Andre, moving into the room.
Jesus Christ, still a jury barrier.
Andre, are you there? You're on mute, sir. Brian, can you bring somebody else in the room while Andre tries to work it through?
Sure thing, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Next, I have Jerry Barron. Moving him into the room now.
Thank you. Mr. Barron, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I had to unmute myself. Forgive me. I just
No
wanted to say,
worries.
the last I heard, there were 10 elements in the master plan. And the last one, as Mr. Russo can verify, was the Parks and Recreation. That was like 3 years ago, I believe. That was the last element that was completed, I believe, by the planning board.
Jerry, I think there was another one after that. I could be wrong. It's been a while.
I know it. Okay. And I just
Tommy, are
wanted
you
to-
having a senior moment? Just asking. Please say yes.
It's been three, I think, for 3-4 years. Yeah, no, I
So
don't
you're
think
having a senior moment, I'm telling you.
haven't-
He forgot the dates before, so okay, it's one of those nights. I just wanted to thank you for supporting the green team. It's nice to get support from council and mayor. Too many times over the years, I know I've been on different committees and commissions, and unfortunately, they say no. But a lot of work went into this. Mary Ann Cernak, myself, and Lisa spent like 3 weeks doing the wording and everything, especially Mary Ann Cernak. And I just thank you for your support. And one more thing, please consider the PS&E grant when you get a chance to look at it, because that needs a resolution also, but not to May. But thank you all, and have a good night. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Bye.
See you on the weekend.
Okay, Mayor, next we have Barbara, moving her into the room now.
Did you want to try, oh, Barbara, or do you want to go back to Andre?
Andre
You
does
got
not have his
Barbara
hand up
in?
currently.
Well, he went, okay, take Barbara, go ahead.
Hello, Mayor, Council, can you hear me?
Hi, Barbara.
Hi. I have three things. First of all, to Councilwoman Richmond, thank you for mentioning the spraying. I appreciate that. I hope it's going to be on the township website under Howell alerts. Councilwoman Richmond, can you also please reach out to the county, since this is one of their programs, and have them publicly put this in a newspaper and put it on their website. It's that important that when they do the spraying, that nobody get hurt. If you're out in the field and you're not knowing it and you're tending your crops and your cattle, that nobody gets hurt by not knowing that the day is going to be sprayed, and you stay home. That's what I'm asking you to do.
Thank you, Barbara.
Also, regarding the vaccines, I was given the number, the Monmouth County Office of the Aging. I know one or two of my neighbors missed the town hall, so Melanie gave me Office of the Aging telephone number, and I've been giving it out in the villages, and I'm giving it out, and it's 732-431-7450. That's Monmouth County Office of the Aging. You can call them up and ask them about a vaccine, and they'll put you on a list. And people that they have been calling people back and getting them vaccinated at Brookdale. And because I'm finding out that when I'm talking to people in the villages and they're trying to get on the state website, if you do not have a smartphone and I don't know what, every kind of newfangled contraption that there is, you are not getting on the state website when you click. It just kicks it right out. So that's why I'm giving out the phone number. And it's important. And people are getting vaccinated. I know several of my neighbors I gave it out to. They called them up. They got on the list. Office on the Aging called them back, and they got vaccinated. The next thing I want to tell you is your comments about Verizon Fios and upgrading your equipment. Several years ago, those of us in the villages who had Verizon got a letter from them telling us you either they authorized Fios to come in. You either take the Fios or lose your telephone service. So we had to take the Fios. Okay, Fios came in. They dug up the villages. They cut phone lines. They cut water lines, and they broke a water main. They hired a third party to connect the service to the houses. They were supposed to go under the building like every other utility. No, they didn't. And I've been to the council, you've seen me, they drilled a hole right through my outside of my house, through my siding into my dining room and connected the FiOS right there and put a battery pack on my dining room floor. I've been to the council with this. When Jim Herman was there, he refused to let code enforcement come out to look at it. But those of us, a lot of us who have had FiOS, got rid of them. No thanks. So beware, be careful with FiOS. And if you're gonna do it, don't let them hire a third party to do this, because they did it fast. Not good. So, but thank you anyway, all of you, and please, like I said, I'm giving out the number for the vaccines, and I think it's wonderful that if you can get a hold of Central State or any of the other people to give out as many, vaccinate the people in the town. I appreciate it.
1 minute left.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No worries.
I don't know how many people in the villages have not gotten vaccines. I keep trying to find out, but we need a vaccination program really locally if you can. But thank you very much. And Councilwoman Richmond, just reach out to the county and Mr. Giga.
Barbara, if you could just like, can we connect offline?
Yeah, sure.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay, have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Brian?
Okay, Mayor, next I have Steve Morlino. I'm moving into the room. Andre no longer has his hand raised, so I don't know if he doesn't have a question or wasn't able to figure it out.
Can you hear me? Okay, I have to, first of all, Steve Morlino, Peachstone Road. I'm a 36-year resident here in Howell. I have to tell you, I'm on Zoom meetings, WebEx meetings, team meetings all day long. This is one of the most difficult Zooms that I've experienced so far as a person trying to access the town council. I got to tell you, it seems to be a very difficult platform to get into. Now I see a normal screen that I normally see, in which we can speak to the council members and whatever and voice our opinion. But I have to tell you, just coming to this site was very difficult. I went on the township website. I had a lot of difficulty finding it. I consider myself pretty computer literate. I'm on, like I said, I was on Zoom and WebEx and team meetings from 8 o'clock this morning until I just left the meeting where I did a presentation on WebEx in the district I work in. I got to tell you, you got to improve this. This is really convoluted to get into this platform, but that's not why I called this evening. So again, I want to thank you for taking my call. Good evening to the mayor and the council. I have to tell you, the reason that I've calmed down a lot, I'll tell you that. I was very irate a week or so ago because I was told I was one of the 200 people who happened to get my vaccine at town hall on the 27th. I was very appreciative of that. My wife and I had signed up on a number of websites throughout the state, the county. We were on the list for Jersey Shore Medical Center. We had a date. They called us up and said, we're sorry, but the vaccines aren't here. We can't give you a vaccine. We don't have any. Thank God. My daughter called me and said, Dad, there's a thing on the Howell Alert, which I wasn't signed up for, that said vaccines are going to be issued through the OEM office. So I went online immediately and I put in the data, and Victor contacted us shortly after that and said that we had an appointment. I was thrilled. I have to tell you, trying to get this vaccine has been a nightmare for people. And I can tell you, seniors that aren't too familiar with web platforms and the internet and how to access these things have a lot of difficulty. That's number one. Number two, there were people at the town hall when I was there that were in wheelchairs and walkers, very unstable, had difficult times walking around. Okay. I'm a senior, but I get around pretty well. Okay. So again, it was very much appreciated that this was arranged for the township. Then I found out that perhaps the second shot, which is due this Saturday, may not occur. So I logged on because I heard some scuttle on the internet, on some of the Howell websites there, the blogs, whatever you want to call them. And there was a lot of banter back and forth. So I went on and listened to your last meeting of the 9th. Now, I haven't been on here. Listen, I used to go to all the town meetings and I gave it all up. Okay. But you've now wakened the sleeping giant, because when I logged on the 9th, the banter that went back and forth in this community by the very people on this Zoom meeting, I got to tell you, it was kind of discouraging to hear it go back and forth. It became a political ping pong. Okay. You're dealing with senior residents of this town who want to get vaccinated. There is no reason for us to have this banter back and forth about who filed charges against whom. First of all, I think it's outrageous that anybody in a worldwide pandemic, this is a worldwide pandemic. This is not something that the former president created or someone in China created. This is worldwide, folks. People are dying all over the world. Okay, right here in New Jersey, people have died. Friends of mine have died. Friends of mine have been in the hospital for months with COVID.
1 minute left.
How much is left?
1 minute, sir.
Okay, I'll speak fast. So anyway, the whole purpose of my call is if the mayor is able to get vaccines for this community, I applaud her. And I'll be damned if anyone on this call should prevent her from using her company. I don't care what the company is. 200 vaccinations not going to make her a millionaire, but it's going to help a lot of people. So with all the clout that this council has at the county level, okay, I'd like to know if Mr. Arnone has been contacted, if Mr. Sean Golden has been contacted, if the governor's office has been contacted, if the state OEM office has been contacted to get vaccinations into Howell Township. Barbara Dixell, I just heard, boy, I haven't talked to her in a long time, but I just heard her talk about the villages and how they need, let me tell you, they could certainly use vaccines over there. They have a clubhouse. It could be done right in the clubhouse. We don't need to politicize this. We don't make this a partisan issue. We need to take care of the residents here in Howell, okay, and do the right thing. Thank you very much for listening. You'll hear from me in the future. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Mr. Merlino. I want to say thank you so much. I will say that Ocean Health Initiatives will be providing the second vaccine to ensure that anybody got the first vaccine will have the second vaccine to complete their, vaccination process. But at this point, there is no future dates that OHI will be providing services within the town. But as I said earlier, that I'm hoping that we can get, the other FQHCs or Central State or the other town, the other available vaccinators to come in and provide services for our seniors. So thank you, Mr. Merlino. I've never met you, but thank you so much.
And Mayor, I just want to jump in and clarify something.
Please.
So, and I saw some of the same stuff on some of the same websites, often wrong, never in doubt. But let me tell you the real story about this whole nonsense about filing charges. Nobody filed charges. This wasn't Councilwoman O'Donnell or Councilwoman Richmond or Deputy Mayor Russo. I'm sorry, Mayor, I thought you were doing something. I flagged the issue. Just me.
I know.
I was doing my job. Well, at the last meeting, I think there was some misinformation that got out that it was this political hit job. And
actually, I'm sorry, Mr. Clark, at this point, I cannot have this discussion according to legal counsel.
It's not a discussion, Mayor. I'm just trying to set the record straight so that there's accurate information out there. We're all for transparency. That's been our buzzword.
Absolutely.
So I'm the one who flagged the issue. Buck stops here, and nobody's trying to prevent the mayor from giving shots. I just said get an advisory opinion. That's all.
That's fine, but you specifically told me that it was Councilwoman Richmond. If it wasn't, that's a shame on you for saying that. And I'm going to end this discussion now. I'm ending the discussion.
Excuse me.
Point of order. I cannot have this discussion according to legal counsel. So I am moving forward. Are there any other
point of order?
Are there any other members of the town who are waiting to speak? Are there any other members of town that are waiting to speak?
Wait, Councilwoman Richmond's raised a point of order.
Thank you.
What is it?
I would like her to let you finish speaking and stop interrupting and throwing my name out when she has no facts based on that accusation against me.
So
I,
please-
I agree with the mayor. I think the conversation is done with that. I just wanted to set the record straight that no complaint was filed. It was me that flagged it.
Thank you. Brian,
Mayor, if I may, I'll jump in here. I did want to comment that those that received the first vaccination will receive their second vaccination here at Town Hall, same
Correct.
location where they came. Apparently,
Correct.
there's some conflicting information being put out by OHI that
So
they
I'm
were
gonna-
given the Lakewood address. So
yes.
I just want to make it clear, the second vaccination is here at the municipal building. That being said, we have Andre raising his hand again. I'd like to.
So I'm gonna
go ahead
let
and move
Andre wait for 2 seconds. I'm just gonna let you know that the unit, the mobile unit is associated in Lakewood, but we will absolutely be providing the vaccine at Town Hall where you approved for the first vaccination. So everybody who received the first vaccination should come back to receive their second vaccination. It's all ready for them.
Okay, Mayor,
Okay.
and
Thank you so
now
much. And
Andre's hand is no longer raised, so
oh,
seeing no other
well-
comments from the public, I suggest we can.
perfect. At this point, we have the consent agenda. Sue?
Thank you, Mayor. Consent agenda resolutions R21-117 through R21-128. May I have a motion to adopt these resolutions?
I make a motion to adopt the resolutions.
Second?
Thank you very much. Roll call. Councilman Bonovich,
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Richmond,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo,
Yes.
and Mayor Berger.
Yes.
Okay, we have a non-consent resolution R21-129. May I have a motion for amending the 2021 temporary appropriations pursuant to New Jersey statutes annotate Title 40A:4-20 prior to the adoption of the 2021 municipal budget? May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Oh, I have a second for Councilwoman O'Donnell. I'll proceed with roll call. Councilman Bonovich,
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Richmond,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo,
Yes.
and Mayor Berger.
Yes. At this point, we have the public hearing and adoption for ordinances. Sue?
Yes, ordinance 21-7, establishing chapter 330 of the Township Code entitled Excessive Consumption of Municipal Services. Ordinance 021-7 was introduced and passed on first reading, on March 9th, 2021, and published according to the law. Now it is being taken up for further consideration and public hearing. Affidavit of publication of this ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of March 12th, 2021 is submitted, and it is noted that a copy of the ordinance has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and that copies were available to the general public upon request. Mayor, would you like to open for a public hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
Brian, do we have anyone?
Yes, any members of the public that wish to comment on this ordinance, please raise your hand. Mayor, there was stand by for Chris Hanlon being moved into the room now.
Okay.
Mr. Hanlon, you're in the room. If you could unmute and you're free to address the governor.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Good evening, council members.
Good evening.
My name is Christopher Hanlon. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Hanlon, Neiman and Wright in Freehold, New Jersey. I represent numerous properties that may be affected by this ordinance. That includes Cornerstone at Howell, Green Acres Mobile Home Park, the Engelin Mobile Home Park, and the Oak Hill Mobile Home Park. I've been authorized to address the council on their behalf. We would, I would like to articulate a couple of areas where we object to the provisions of this ordinance and seek clarification in others. First, as it relates to the mobile home parks, it's my understanding all of the mobile home parks in Howell Township pay a pad fee in addition to their real estate taxes. By statute, that should be called a municipal service fee. But it's my understanding that by statute, those fees are supposed to be calculated to cover the cost of services being supplied by the municipality, including such things as police calls. So as it relates to the mobile home parks, it's our understanding we're already paying for this service. So on that basis, we would request that the mobile home parks be removed from the scope of this ordinance. If the actual cost of calls to my client's properties are not being covered by the municipal service fees, respectfully, we think the appropriate remedy would be to adjust the municipal service fee. So that way the municipality can be made whole and the cost is covered over the entire property. We believe that would be the more fair way to do it. If you disagree with that proposition and you're going to leave mobile home parks within the scope of the ordinance, the next problem we have is with some of the language in subpart B, where you make a reference to multifamily dwellings in the formula for computing what can be an excessive number of calls. There's no reference there to mobile home parks, and that may be because of a common misperception. Some people think when you refer to multifamily dwellings, that includes mobile home parks. And frankly, we think that's your intention. But I can tell you this, representing mobile home parks in New Jersey for 40 years, by statute, multifamily dwellings does not include mobile home parks. So to avoid any confusion, if you're going to continue to include us in the scope, I would request that you amend that section of the ordinance, it's subpart B, to add a specific reference to mobile home parks. I'm going to keep moving through my comments quickly. I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone has. My third comment relates to the fact that the way the ordinance operates, once a offensive property reaches their threshold to be included as a nuisance property, they're given a notification and an opportunity for a hearing. While that process is ongoing, if there's another police call, they're going to get fined. And the result of that, your ordinance scheme, is they could be fined before they have an opportunity to have a hearing. And in my legal opinion, that's a violation of due process. We would request that you fix the ordinance to make sure that before we have the opportunity to have a hearing, we can't be penalized. Fourth, we're requesting the ordinance be amended to require notification to the property owner for each call. It's my understanding the goal here is not to impose penalties on any property owner. The goal here is for you to motivate the property owners to do the right thing and abate nuisance calls before they put an unnecessary drain on your first responder resources. For example, some of these properties under your ordinance have a threshold of 30 calls in 40 days. I'm sorry, 40 calls. Yeah, 40 calls in 60 days. We may not even know the calls are occurring. That's the way management of a large property can occur. For example, Oak Hill Mobile Home Park is 300 mobile home sites. It's enormous. And management doesn't live on site. If there's a police call in the middle of the night, we may not even know it happened. If we're notified after the fact that we have to deal with this problem to avoid a penalty, it's not serving our purposes or your purposes. Therefore, we'd like the ordinance amended. Right now, it says after the 5th call, the chief of police is supposed to notify the property owner. And then if the property gets to half of its offensive criteria, so in the case of the largest group, that would be, 20 calls, the police chief may or may not give the property owner notice. We're requesting that the property owner get notice with each call that's considered. It could be a form letter. It doesn't have to be a great administrative burden. But our point is we want to know, the property owners do, when these problems are happening so we can go nipping them in the bud. We don't want to worry about having to fight over whether there's a penalty due. We want to stop the offensive calls. We think that's what you want. we're more likely as managers to do that if you're keeping us informed of the problem as it evolves. Last, I would ask you to consider postponing the implementation of this ordinance for the following reason. For all of my properties, if we're going to address tenants who are causing these types of problems, we need the leverage of enforcement. Our enforcement is landlord-tenant court. It's a harsh reality, but if we have someone who's constantly violating the law, causing these calls, they're constantly violating our lease, our leverage, and you want us to exercise our leverage. That's the whole point of this. You want us to stop the nuisance calls. Our leverage is landlord-tenant court. Landlord-tenant court is closed because of the pandemic. We can't even get into court unless we're dealing with the most outrageous offenses. So for example, looking at the list of offenses that could be the subject of offensive or nuisance calls, bear with me. Whoops. We can't get into court on all the following. A, this is under definition of qualifying calls. The sale, service, or consumption of alcoholic beverages. B, D, improperly parking a vehicle or any motor vehicle violation on private property. E, possession of a barking or a howling dog. And G, and believe it or not, and this is not an exaggeration by any means, prostitution. What's happening in the landlord-tenant courts are we can only get a hearing for what the court considers emergent. And this is just an example. I actually have a case pending in Gloucester County for prostitution where I've asked for the emergent hearing. My application was filed with the court a month ago. I still have no answer. My point is, my clients want to act responsibly when they are notified by the town that there's a nuisance going on their property, but they have to have the leverage to do so. And as outrageous as it seems, landlord-tenant court is closed to us right now, so we really couldn't do it if we wanted to. We can't be the responsible citizen that you want us to be. But so in that regard, I'd ask you to work with us until the landlord-tenant court's open before you impose what could be a rather expensive penalty on my clients under circumstances where their hands are tied. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Hanlon.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming. Can you elaborate on the due process argument? You skimmed
Yeah,
over it, but
yes. So the way the ordinance works, as I understand it, and I'll try to use I just saw this 2 days ago, so I'm not good at the terms yet. But you have a threshold for qualifying calls within a 60-day period. So if a property results or experiences the designated number of qualifying calls to be determined to be a nuisance, and as I understand it, that will be determined by the police chief. He will then send out a notice, a summons, and advising the client, the property owner, that you've gone over the number of nuisance calls that we can tolerate. You are now going to go on probation for a year, which means the next call, you're going to have to pay $500 plus costs. No, I'm sorry, $300 plus costs. We are allowed to ask for a hearing in response to that designation, but it's possible the way you have it drafted that first call, which triggers the financial obligation or the penalty, could occur before we get a hearing. My understanding of the law is any regulatory scheme that imposes a penalty before we have the opportunity of what's called constitutionally notice and an opportunity to be heard violates procedural due process. I've had a state statute declared unconstitutional on that basis. It was back in 1994, but the law hasn't changed in that regard. It's constitutional federal law. It could be fixed by making sure that once we go over the threshold, we're given a notice and an opportunity to be heard before penalties can be imposed.
But before
it's just.
Oh, I'll jump in quickly on that because there seems to be some confusion on it. So nobody's going to get a penalty without a hearing. I can guarantee that. Under 3037, a hearing's required to be held. And at that point, there's required to be proof of the number of qualifying calls. And then there's required to be proof of the calls that occurred after the entity, the business, whatever, was put on probation. I think that's in 3037A and B. At least in the first instance, the municipal attorney is the hearing officer. So we determine whether within the 60-day period, they received qualifying calls in excess of those permitted under the statute. And then how many nuisance calls occurred during the probationary period. So I understand your due process concern. I don't know that it's founded. I think there's enough there in the hearing sections to provide adequate protection.
My only response to that, Mr. Clark, would be if the intent is that there can be no penalty before the hearing, then just add that sentence. Then it's crystal clear.
Well, I think it's a given that it can't be. I mean, it says that there shall be a hearing and nothing happens until that hearing's held.
It doesn't say nothing happens until that hearing's held. The
I'm
police calls
telling you,
could
that's
come
the
in-
plain meaning of the ordinance.
Okay, and respectfully,
Does he know he's frozen?
Don't think so.
There he is.
Mr. Hanlon, your screen was frozen, so the last few seconds.
I apologize. I was good for the first 2.5 hours of this meeting. Sorry, I'm having problems now.
So if you look at subsection C of 330-7, it says that the following shall be memorialized in the order. And that's a finding that the property was on probationary status, a determination that an excessive number of qualifying calls were made during that time period, an assessment of the reasonable cost of litigation, and an assessment of a user fee of $300 for each qualifying call. So I don't think it's a fair assessment of the ordinance that a penalty gets levied without a hearing being held.
Okay, listen, I hope I don't have to defend any of my clients and at any point in time after you leave, Mr. Clark, because you and I are on the same page.
Yeah, and maybe just to give you a little bit of history, I don't know that there's ever been any particular problems with any of your clients or the mobile home parks. You know, there are other properties in town where there's been an excessive consumption of municipal resources. So I mean, sitting here, can I promise you that it's never going to happen, that your client won't get a summons under? No, I can't, but I would be surprised because I haven't, just knowing what I know about the genesis of this ordinance, I don't know that the mobile home parks are of any particular concern.
And I appreciate that sentiment and that my clients would agree with that. But again, my job is to look at this as a law, because once it goes on the books, my experience is it's going to be there for a very long time period. It's going to outlast you and me. So we can only go by the language. I read the language objectively, and I ask myself, what could happen under this circumstance? And again, if the intention is clear and it can be fixed, just why not? But that's the last word I'll say on this. Thank you.
Mayor, you're muted.
Okay. Mayor, I'm moving Mr. Hanlon out. And is there any other members of the public that wish to comment on this ordinance?
I'm just saying thank you to Mr. Hanlon, and if he has any further discussion or questions, he can contact you if he needs to. So thank you.
Very good. Mayor, I'm not seeing any other members of the public that wish to comment on this ordinance.
Being there are no one else to comment, may I have a motion that ordinance 021-7 be finally passed and adopted, that notice of its passage and adoption be published in the March 26, 2021 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Councilman Bonovich,
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell,
Yes,
Councilwoman Richmond,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo,
Yes.
and Mayor Berger.
Yes. There's, under introduction of ordinances, there are none.
No, there are none.
So at this point, I believe that we need to go into executive session.
Resolution 21-130, authorizing the entrance into executive session in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Tonight will be discussed code of conduct, encroachment of right-of-way, efficiency study, Woodlands Trust, and ADA grant improvements. May I have a motion?
motion to go into an executive session with a 5-minute recess prior to reconvening.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Evelyn.
Councilman Bonovich,
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Richmond,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo,
Yes.
and Mayor Berger.
Yes, my dog just broke through the door, so. Yes,
Okay, thank you. See you all in 5.
thank you.
Bonovich is coming in now. You have a quorum. You
We have a
can
quorum.
end it if you like.
Motion to.
I would like to entertain a motion
I-
to adjourn the meeting.
Second, you Pam.
Woo.
Adios.
Councilman Bonovich,
Unmute
Say
yourself.
yes, John.
Say yes,
All in
say yes,
favor?
say yes.
aye.
Yes,
Opposed?
yes, do this.
No, we're all good.
Good.
Perfect.
Good night.
All
Night,
right.
everyone. Be well.
Good night.
Good night.
Peace out.
Later.